What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today's guest is actually a pretty strong motherfucker. His name is Callinan. He's a competitive powerlifter at 90 kilos. He's a pretty smart dude. He has a BS in Kinesiology, has his NSCA, CSCS, USAW, and he's a level 1 performance coach. He actually worked at 24 off Valley View in Yorba Linda, California. Please welcome my guest, Callinan. It's actually true because like when you start coaching, you start somewhere like at a baseline, right, with people. And then if you kind of not necessarily not progress, but if you kind of stay stagnant, your clients will see that and they'll be like, what? They'll be like, he keeps doing the same things. Like, I'm not really learning much. Yeah. You know, so like that's basically why I have people on this show as well. Like, I want to keep learning. I want all my viewers to keep learning. Like,
yeah,
why
not?
You have your BS in kinesiology, correct? So what's your take because I dropped out, right? But I've been a coach for a total 8 years. I don't really count my years at LA Fitness because I really didn't learn, and that was like a big box gym. You know, I didn't get my learning until after I worked there 4 years, and I went into a private facility, and then my just curriculum took off.
Okay.
So like, what's your, not recommendation, but what's your take on like, if someone has their BS or master's in kines, exercise physiology versus someone who doesn't?
So the science, like, it's gonna sound weird, but that's easy to teach. Like, you can teach that to anyone. That's whatever. It's kind of besides the point. But what myself and my good friend and old boss Nick Rodson, who's fantastic guy, fantastic trainer. When we'd be considering people to hire at the 24 when he managed there, we would look more for the different skill sets, like are they open to learning? Are they hardworking? Are they willing to adapt and change like their way of thinking in order to serve the best needs of the client or the team, whatever it might be. Because we can teach the science. I used to actually, funny enough, I had a little seminar that I used to do with the trainers at my gym called Trainer Talk, just like your podcast. That's why it was so funny when I found your podcast. I was like, holy crap, like that's just so small world. But
ironic, right?
Yeah, but that's where like I would like kind of level with the team and just make sure we all have a solid foundation, and it was optional. And to my surprise, but I could have seen this just because of the people I work with. When I mentioned like it's gonna be optional, but you're gonna learn. It might be an hour, but come if you want. And the room was filled like every single time. Like the people wanted to learn.
Right.
And that's really what was important, more so than your education, because you can have people that came through school or came out of school and they have the book knowledge, but they just cannot apply it.
That relative knowledge to applying that to your client and seeing like what
exactly. Yeah. Like they're stuck in their textbook, and well, if the textbook isn't working, it's your fault. It's not my fault or the textbook's fault. That you can't be wrong. It has to be something wrong. And I don't know. That's one of my big things with physical therapy right now is it's so dead set and just hammering down in the book. And then if it doesn't work, then we're not the problem. You must be the problem. So, or it might not be fixable, and you're just gonna have to deal with it the rest of your life.
So that's more of like a narrow-minded approach to
it
instead of being open.
It's a cancerous thought process. So, just long story short, my take on it is if you have the work ethic, the openness, the willingness to learn and grow, then you're gonna do really well, because we can teach you all the other stuff, and there's so much more to learn.
Right.
So,
and that depends based on client to client too. Everybody has their own individual differences and kinks and everything that makes them who they are and who like they are unique as a person as well.
Yes.
So it's very important to do that. And that's what kind of sucks. Like when you go through schooling, I mean, you have the educational stuff, hard, black and white on textbooks. and then you go through your certification process. They don't teach you that. They don't teach you the business side or the person-to-person side, how like more like the psychological side of things too.
Yeah.
And I think that should be a big thing that they should be implementing in that. Because you're right, you could have the textbook knowledge and everything else like that, but when it comes to everything like the stuff outside of that, you're like, oh shit, like I have to learn more about this. I thought I knew it all. You know?
Right. And not only that, and it's good that you brought that up because, you can have all the information in the world, but if you can't communicate that with someone else, if you're explaining it like a textbook and someone doesn't learn like information like from a textbook, they need either like a visual or analogies or just something different. And all you're doing is just hammering, your one way of teaching. They're not going to be able to learn it, and they're tapped out. And so the communication skill from coach to client, or from coach to coach, or whoever it might be, is so important. I'm glad you brought that up because it's very overlooked.
Yeah, especially with clients. So it depends. Like if you have an athlete, they're more susceptible to you giving them internal cues, right? They're so used to that. Whereas you go to a general population, they have no idea what you mean by what you're saying as far as their form. So now you got to go to and transition that to external cueing.
Right.
And then so you have to make sure what fits with what, like putting in that puzzle piece.
Yeah. Yeah. And something that's great that you brought that up. Just the understanding the difference between internal and external cues and when to use them, how to use them. It's just like one of those like little detail things that, if you don't understand that, it could really hold you back. That was my problem when I first started too. I was all about like internal cues. Some of my clients were like, I don't understand what that means. Like, how do I don't understand that connection?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get my shoulders, pulled back and down? And it wasn't so I started, saying, put your shoulder blades into your back pockets. And I'm like, got it. External cue, got it. And then once they start grasping that, then you can start going to the internal. Now they have that better understand that foundation. But yeah, no, that's so good that you brought that up. Yeah.
Would you spearhead that? Like, would you be in charge of having seminars in 24, or would you do that with your boss?
That wasn't a thing with 24 specifically. It was just kind of like an idea I ran through. Nick is my boss first, and he was like, dude, do it. Like, that's awesome. Cool. And actually they're up on YouTube. But it was great because, it really forced me to, even though like it was information I was teaching my clients just for years. I wasn't teaching it to like one person. I was teaching it to a group of people now. So now I had to know the information so much more and be able to communicate it, in different ways potentially in order to get it across. And, it was a really good learning experience for myself as well. So it's really, really funny.
And then how long have you been working at 24? Until now, because like COVID happened.
Yeah. So in total, I was hired in 2013 or 14 at the front desk at Anaheim Hills. And I was doing that while I was finishing school. Then when I graduated in 2015, I started training at the Yorba Linda Supersport. So from about late 2015, till now. Yeah. So about almost 5 years. 5.5.
That's the one on Fairmont, right?
No, it's off of Yorba Linda and Valley View.
Oh, Valley View, that's right.
Yeah, right. The Vaughn used to be
there.
there.
Yeah. That's a nice facility.
Yeah,
it's huge.
It's cool. Yeah, I like it.
So what are they doing now because of COVID? Like, how have you been? Like,
I've been fine. I've been good. Just taking the time to enjoy myself and take care of the things I want to do, and and enjoy my summer. There's another thing you guys were talking about on your podcast about like work-life balance, and again, it just resonated with me so much because you're a trainer and like you just want to help as many people as possible, but then also pay your bills and do your thing. And you just think, okay, I can take on this one other client. I can take on this other client, this other client.
Bite off more than you can chew.
Bite off more than you can chew. That's like my middle name is that. Just overly ambitious. But, it works for like a week or two. And then all of a sudden.
It slams you.
You're just like, where's my time? Like, I don't have anything. And it starts reflecting on like the quality of your training. It reflects on the quality of your own workouts and yourself. Your relationships with other people, even some of your clients will start to suffer because you're not able to give them the time and focus that they need.
Right.
So just being able to recognize that and scale back, it's like you have to be open to learning to grow, but then also be open to learning and how to dial back and take care of yourself. Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of someone else. An empty cup can't fill another. So
I was reading this book, and it talked about the psychological aspects of highly successful people. I forgot what book it was. And it was talking about no matter what industry you're in, like, and if you're kind of a workaholic, like me, I'm kind of the same way. They said about from every 3 to 4 months, what you need to do is you kind of need to get out of your realm, whatever realm that is, and just go away for 2 to 3 days. No laptop, turn your phone off, get out of whatever realm you're in. You can even drive 2 hours into the woods and hang out there, but you'll come back and you'll feel so refreshed. After I read that, I was like, okay, let me apply this. It worked. I came back, my clients, like I was way better with my clients. I was much more energized. They're like, wow. I was like, yeah, I think I just needed a break from all this and kind of get me time and enjoy it. And then now I'm back at work and I'm even sharper. I'm coming up with new things or new ways to help people. And I'm on point now. Like my mind's going a little bit faster, So I completely agree with that. Like you gotta give yourself time.
Yeah, and it's like and your clients can feel too. Like some of my clients are like, "Hey, when's the last time you took a vacation?" It's like, I'm like
question of the day
over a year, and they're like, why don't you and your girlfriend go somewhere? Why don't you guys just like go away for a weekend somewhere? And like, I love my job because of the people that I get to work with, and like just as much as you care for them, like you start building those bonds and those relationships with your clients. They love you. Like they want the best for you as well, just like you want the best for them. And it's so rewarding in that regard because like they help kind of ground you and keep you in check. And some of my clients who I never thought it would turn into something like this, but some of my clients that I have turned into some mentors of mine and like were really helpful. And I've been able to vent to them about personal stuff that I have going on, or ask them for advice, or even one of my clients, Daniel, him and his wife, if I tell them I have a vacation coming up, they're like, oh, where? Let me see if I can get you a hotel, like comped or something. Cause
that is so cool.
Travel all the time and have all these connections. So like, they're just like the people you work with and get to meet. And I love my job. It's incredible.
It's one of the perks. It was episode 6 with Brittany. We were talking about that, and your clients start out as clients. You're trying to figure out who they are, what makes them tick, kind of what their quirks are. And then you build that solid relationship depending on how long you've been working with them. And years go by and you start to become their friends. And then they start taking care of you just to make sure you're all right, because you're also giving them a service. So they're like, hey, how's Kenny doing? Like, is he okay? Oh, he's going on vacation? Okay. Hey, we know this spot. It's open. Like, we have a townhouse. You could just stay there. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a give and take relationship at that point. And that's why I love it too. It's like they take care of you. They're your mentors. They're your friends. They're like your second mom or dad, So that's why I love this too. It's honestly, it's a blessing. I would have to say it. Not a lot of people see that because everyone's like, oh, you're just a trainer, you're just a coach. And I'm like, there's a lot more behind that.
Yeah, I that used to bother me too, somewhat. But if that's all someone's gonna see when they see personal trainer, it's like, that's fine. You can think. I know I'm not that, so that's fine.
It's whatever you think and what you're doing and what you believe what you're doing is a good thing, and whatever you're putting out. You know. So how do you make that work with you and your girlfriend? Because for a lot of coaches, it's hard. Wake up early. We have usually split shifts, and then you work on the weekend. Sometimes you have to go in on a Saturday or Sunday. So like, how do you balance that like work, life, relationship thing? Because that's hard, dude. It's freaking hard.
It can be very hard. But in most instances, this probably would not work. So maybe this may not be the best advice, but in my case, I got extremely lucky with my girlfriend, Rachel. She's incredible.
Shout out to Rachel.
Yeah, shout out to Rachel. Yeah, amazing. But I met her at 24 at the gym that I work at.
Usually how it works.
And she was also a trainer that just started there. Okay. So we prior to COVID, worked together. So it was kind of like we would spend time together. It's a weird thing because, we're not like physically spending time together, and we're not like paying attention to each other, but we're mindful of each other. Like,
You're in the same atmosphere.
Yeah, we're in the same atmosphere. And, if, the workout allows for it, and I try to put myself like close-ish to her and her client. And I'm sure she does the same thing. So, but we both understand that work-life balance thing anyways. And so we understand like what it's like to have a job and then also trying to maintain a relationship. She's super understanding. Isn't like, how come you're not spending time with me doing this? It's like she understands, she's going through it as well, and it just works out that way for us. I'm super lucky, could not be happier.
Yeah, I think it's easier if I talked about this too a couple episodes ago. I think it's easier there's different X and Y factors, but it's easier to date somebody in the same place as you or in the same career as you, because they understand, they know what you're going through, they know the hours and how they're so weird and it fluctuates differently. Sometimes you have to go on a weekend just to make up a session for a client. I think it's just on a general standpoint of view, it's a little easier because they know, they understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, dude, I was looking at your Instagram. You're fucking strong, man.
Thanks, man.
Like, how'd you get into powerlifting?
So yeah.
Wait, squatting 590?
No, I was 550. Not yet. Not 590 is definitely trying to get into the 600 club would be amazing. So, but how I got into powerlifting, you ready for story time? Because
this is what it's about.
It's going to be story time. So, bringing it back to about 2016.
Okay.
First quarter of it, my buddy Nick and I, who were just like super competitive, friendly competitions with each other all the time.
Right.
We're like, screw it. Let's do a bodybuilding show. And I had never done anything like that before. And it was really my buddy Nick who wanted to do it. And I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll do it with you just to push you through it and help you out. But then I ended up signing up for the same thing, and 4 weeks, and we're doing classic physique, which is kind of like the old school bodybuilding. Yeah, that type of look. So legs are very important as well. And about 4 weeks out of my comp or out of the show, I was squatting, and I was noticing I was at the bottom of my squat shifting into my right hip, and I had like 385 pounds on my back, and I'm on like my 6th rep, and the personal trainer me comes out and is like, "Oh, you should probably fix that." So, dumbass, at the bottom of my squat, decides to try to shift back into my left side, and you're already like semi-depleted. Your nutrition during prep is it's not that great. Like on paper, it looks awesome, but in reality, like you're in hell. Like it sucks. So I ended up tearing my PCL, my MCL, and my meniscus during that, and it was so funny because like I felt a couple pops, pop, and I'm back up at the top, and I'm like, okay, was that a good pop or a bad pop? And like I cracked my knees to go down for another rep, and like something just like, no, do not. It didn't hurt yet, but I was just like, it's probably not a good idea. So I rack it, I look down, my knee's already the size of a baseball. I'm just like, crap, it is something. So I go and get an MRI, and it ends up being that what they said was just really bad tendonitis. And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessary. I felt things popping, like tearing.
They got an X-ray?
MRI.
MRI, okay.
I'm like, yeah, no, it was just really bad tendonitis. And I'm like, all right, if you say so. But I couldn't do anything with my legs. So, and up until that point, I put this in our kind of pre-talk overview, but when I was going through that, like up until that point, I was always in pain just as an athlete. And you just kind of think, oh, like, it's just the athlete lifestyle. Like it's gonna happen. It's just kind of
rub the dirt off and keep going.
Yeah, sack up and keep going. So I've been blowing past all sorts of red flags when it came to my knees. And that was kind of like the final straw where I was just like, I'm done of thinking I'm God's greatest gift to lifting and thinking I know everything and I'm this and that. I'm gonna find some answers because I don't want this to ever happen again. And I found a book, and I'm in no way affiliated with Dr. Kelly Starrett or anything like that, but huge shout out to him and Desk Bound / Supple Leopard. Like, holy shit, my life changed like a complete 180, not only in terms of like the way I felt about my body, the way I felt within my body, my strength, my personal performance, but for my clients as well, just paradigm shifting completely.
Right.
So that book, it's two main parts. The first meat of the book is all about just human biomechanics and the dangers of sitting down for long periods of time is just awful for your posture. But the second half or the second back section of the book, if you have an affliction, it has a prescription for you. So let's say you're dealing with sciatica pain. It's going to tell you what tools you're going to need as far as like self-myofascial release, SMR, and some stretches you can do. And one of the big things that it teaches you that's really, really good is not only just because let's say your knee hurts, doesn't mean your knee is the problem. Could be something above or below your knee that's causing the problem, like in your ankle, your hip. So work on the tissues in that area as well. But then also, it's not just about like, you do this thing and it feels better and you're good. No, there's a reason why your knee's been bugging you for a long time. It's a behavior that you're doing incorrectly. You need to learn what that bad behavior is, fix it, and make the good behavior a new part of your lifestyle for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. It's a complete behavior change. And that was one of the biggest takeaways I got from that book, because so many times, like, I'll have clients who go through like physical therapy, and they get stretched and they do their exercises and they feel good. And then they finish their therapy and, 2-3 months later, they're hurting again. Well, why are you hurting again? Oh, I stopped doing my exercises. And the exercises they did were very, very basic. So there was no like translating that over into real life, quote unquote performance. And there's the long-term education isn't quite there. So they're missing a big piece. And for myself and my clients, like that's one of the things I harp on the most is just proper posture, proper form at all times. So anyways, getting back to the story, I did the show, and one of the things that really like blew my mind was the peak week. I asked my clients, okay, well, I tore on my left side, my left knee. And I showed my clients my legs. I was like, okay, so which one looks better, my left or my right? And each of them pointing to my left leg, my left thigh. And which was weird because I was not able to work out whatsoever. That knee was torn. So one of the things that was kind of stressed in the book as well is not only is the feeling of the tissue going to change, but also just the aesthetic, the appearance, just like the general healthy look of the tissue is going to be much better. And it was true because on my right leg, it was bigger, but it was blocky, chunky, not really that well defined. On my left side, so I used myself as a little tiny experiment. I only worked out my right leg, and I only did myofascial release and stretching as whatever I could on my left leg. So muscle building on my right, rehab on my left, and my left ended up looking way better. You can see the striations, the separations. Like it wasn't as big. It wasn't like a huge offset. But it was
more aesthetic.
Very
pleasing.
Aesthetic. Yeah. Very like soft and just like it looks like healthy, bouncy muscle. So I was just like, well, there might be something to that.
Right.
So, but I did the bodybuilding thing and it was fun, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And I'd always been lifting heavy. At Cal State Fullerton, I was a track and field athlete. I was a thrower. And we're just a bunch of fat kids who love like lifting heavy and throwing stuff around and eating. Like that was our deal. So no, I did some Olympic lifting while I was there, and under my strength coach Will Otto, I got really strong. But it wasn't until I started powerlifting that some huge like light bulb started going off in my I guess in my old paradigm before I was like shifting in my new one, where I thought it was just really bad tendonitis, as what the doctor said it was. So I figured, okay, well, I'm feeling better now. Nothing really was apparently torn, so I should be okay to go into powerlifting because that's another thing my buddy Nick and I wanted to do. And we do our first competition, and like it was just a whirlwind of fun. Like I had so much fun at that meet. It was incredible. I loved it. It was so much fun. So
what weight did you compete at?
At that time I was in the 181s. Now I'm in the 90 kilo, 198, just under 200 pounds. So we do the show, or we do the comp, and I'm training for another one. This is a couple months down the line, and I kind of slightly tweaked my left knee doing deadlifts. I was kind of doing like a semi-sumo stance for it, and I just kind of rotated a little bit and just kind of pissed it off. So I went and got a second MRI done by a different doctor, and he's reading the MRI. He's like, "Hey, have you torn anything in your left knee or had any like serious trauma to your knee?" I was like, yeah, I thought I did, but this is, last year, and I thought I did, but it was just tendonitis. And he's like, no, like it. So, and he was showing me the picture. It looks like you had a couple tears here and here. And he pointed my MCL and my PCL, and he's like pointing my meniscus, and you partially tore your meniscus as well. I was like, whoa, wait a second, that sounds a lot more like what I felt, and reality.
Not a lot of people tear their PCLs, right? It's more their ACLs.
Yeah, the ACL that's the more prominent one, just because of in high school sports, especially high school sports, but a lot of sports, and especially female athletes, will tend to have the ACL tears, where there's a lot of lateral changing of directions, just because of the Q angle or glute weakness, or a misbalance between their hamstrings and their quadricep strength, and there's all sorts of different things that play into it. But yeah, it's usually for a lot of people the ACL. That's more in like a single leg. So I think PCL is probably more prominent in the bilateral stance. But he asked me, and I was like, no, it's really bad tendonitis, and he told me that they were torn, and then I was like, well, holy shit, you had been moving weights heavier than you ever done in your entire life with zero pain, none, with a knee that was torn up, and something changed, something that you did made this positive thing happen, and it was the biomechanics. It was like squatting through my hips, my glutes, and not just my quads, my knees. That was the big shift for me, and my strength skyrocketed. Like I got so much stronger just changing my form and just making sure that I was mindful of what I was doing, and not just getting the reps in mindless like I used to. So that's kind of how I got into the powerlifting thing, and I've been doing that for the last 3-4 years now, and I love the personal challenge. I love the atmosphere of it. It's super positive. And it's a great, the way I look at it is it's me. It's not really me versus anyone else. It's me versus myself, / nature.
Right.
This weight's trying to kill me. And if I have any doubt in my heart, I will die. And I'm not going to die. Not today.
Yeah.
That's just the mentality. Just like a caged animal in a corner. Just
a lot of times, like with powerlifting, you're going against science, because they usually measure that of your body weight and how much your body weight and your body structure should take. So you're competing against everything when you're powerlifting. I've never done it, but I used to lift really heavy, and I tweaked my back a few times, so I stopped lifting heavy. But just as far as changing up your routine, doing myofascial release, activation, moving, having 1 or 2 or 3 warm-up sets, like start at 50% of your rep max, then you go on to 70%, then you go to 90%. And by the time you're doing 100% of your weights, everything's moving, everything's flowing. It's just, it's like butter.
Yeah.
And that's what totally changed my way of thinking. It's not until you get hurt or get slammed in the face and you're like, all right, let me take a step back. Let me see what's going on. Obviously, I've been lifting like a dickhead, so I need to change a few things, right? And you start to see more of like the science behind it. Okay, maybe I should foam roll. Maybe I should do some glute activation. Maybe I should do some other activation. Maybe I should stretch after. It's that pre-work, it's that pre-work, post-work, the warm-up sets before, and then you have like your peanut butter and jelly, which is your main lifts.
Right, exactly. It's kind of funny the way you describe it. It's just like it's take it outside of working out, just like in your real life. It's like your parents tell you, you should probably do this. You probably shouldn't do that. And you're just like, what do you know? You're old. Like I'm 18 years old. I'm God. I know everything.
Yeah.
And then you get to like your mid 20s, early 30s, and you're just like, fuck, they were right, man. Like they knew so much more than I thought they did. And,
right.
You start learning like all the things that you thought weren't that important are stupid important. Just like warming up, cooling down, and just paying attention to you're in the gym for a reason. You're not just there just to abuse your body. You're there to get in tune with your body. So why do people check out at the front door? Like they just like go and I can understand like getting away and doing all that, but you're still like in the cockpit. Like you're still in your vehicle of your body. You need to pay attention to what's going on. But yeah, like the stuff you just talked about that's also really important to keep in mind. And it's true that you don't learn that it's important until you are forced to.
Right. Until you get hit in the face.
Yeah.
And you got hit in the face hard.
Pretty hard.
I think coaches too, because a lot of the coaches that we run into or we meet, like we have a lot more problems than the general population. And it helps us that much more because it expands our knowledge on what it is that we had, what things that we faced, and then like, oh, that does this. Oh, okay. Let me keep learning about this. And then it moves on to the next thing and on to the next thing. Like if you really think about it, coaches have a lot more history of hurting ourselves than normal general population.
Yeah, and that's one lesson I had to learn personally is I'm my own guinea pig. So like some people, when they get hurt, they're just like, oh, this sucks, whatever. Can't do anything about it. When I get hurt, some part of me is like, this sucks. But another half is like, yes, I get to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the only one who's going to be going through this. One of my clients at some point or currently is probably going through something very similar. And if I can figure this out, that'll give me another, potential way to help my client or whoever I'm talking to.
And I'm going to be ready for it when that time comes.
Exactly. And I had that and this isn't just coming from like a textbook. This is coming from personal experience and perspective. So, you're able to communicate the information better because it's more intrinsic to you. It's another valid point. And this is something I keep wanting to stress to people is when you're working out, like you're taking care of your body, and it's true that unfortunately a lot of people in the health industry or that are recreationally active end up getting hurt and being kind of in most ways better off, but some ways worse off. Like start getting arthritis early, or knee replacements early, or whatever the case might be. And that's a kind of a terrible thing to have happen, because when you get hurt, you don't want to move anymore.
We become sedentary.
Yeah, you become sedentary. It's like you're getting catapulted each time. So mentally, your behavior starts changing. And you're like, well, I'm now associating workout with pain. I don't want to be in pain anymore. Maybe I just won't work out anymore. And then that starts a even worse downward spiral. And, the way to avoid that is, check your ego at the door, learn the form. Like if a trainer comes up and asks if they can help you with your lifts or, whatever you're doing, just indulge them for a set, see what they have to say. Like maybe I thought I was, God's grace gift of lifting before I got hurt. And if I had just taken the advice of some people that, asked if they could help me, that never would have happened. But, hindsight's always 20/20. So you can't, fault yourself too much for that, but you don't want that same mistake to happen to someone else.
Right.
And so it's so important that you're mindful of your body, your movements, and allowing the machine that is your body to do what it was designed to do. To
move.
Yeah.
And that's another takeaway too. I talked about this on my last podcast last week with Josh. A lot of that mentality where you get hurt and I'm going to stop, comes from the doctor normally. They're like, hey, you have this tear, you have this tear. Well, you can't work out. It's like,
right.
like, do you agree with that? Because I typically
No.
don't,
No.
like I don't at all.
No. So, I have, and it's one thing coming from me because, I don't have a doctor behind my initials and, I'm just some, 20-year-old trainer who's going to grad school. Like,
Yeah.
and like in the grand scheme, it's like, what does he know? I think I know at least a decent amount, but the main one of the main issues I have with doctors is they think they know everything. They think in a lot of cases, maybe not a lot, but some cases they think they're God and they have the ultimate knowledge and power of the body, and whatever they say is law. Like, you cannot go against it. So if a doctor tells you can't work out, even if their rationale is like, what?
Yeah.
What? Don't. You can never do this anymore because you might get hurt. It's like, okay, well, do you want this person ever to do anything ever again in their life?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to help this person, or
Yeah.
do you want to just save your ass in case you get sued for malpractice?
Right.
Like, what's really going on here? And I've had a couple back and forth with some doctors when it came to my clients, and I stay true to what I knew, what I experienced, and just critical thinking, and that's missing. Oddly enough, it's missing. Either that or pride. It just gets in the way. But where someone says, "Oh, your back hurts," well, no, you should never deadlift anymore. And on the surface, you can kind of understand like
where they're coming from.
But at the same time, it's like, this person's making a mistake in their movement pattern. The gym is your training ground to better improve your form, your posture, and your overall livelihood. And yet the answer that this person is looking to achieve, you're telling them they can't search for it. Like, they can't explore deadlift and figure out what the hell is going wrong with it, because there's something wrong that they're doing. Because it's not deadlift that hurt you. It was shitty form that hurt you. The deadlift, it's a tool. Just like a hammer, you can either build a house or you can kill someone. Deadlift, you can either, lift up heavy amounts of weight, zero problem, or you can pick up a pillow off the ground and throw your back out. And chiropractors, PTs all tell you, majority of herniated discs don't come from like big, huge, like acute accidents and trauma. It's just a straw that literally broke the camel's back over time. Just rounding that back to pick over an object you think isn't heavy and it's not important that I pay attention to that form.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, over the millions of duty cycles that you go through,
it's a buildup of stress.
It's a buildup of that tension and stress, and then eventually the fluid, makes its way through the annulus fibrosa, and now you have hernia. I thought I wasn't expecting. I was just picking up my backpack off the ground,
or I sneezed,
or I sneezed. Yeah, it's just like that could have been avoided. And it wasn't the exercise's fault that did it. It was your fault. You hurt yourself, not the exercise. You hurt yourself. Learn from it and fix it. So this is like what really got me heated up. Physical therapist is when I was doing PT for my knee. I was talking to one of the PTs, and she asked me, what happened. I told her, and I told her like during back squat and whatever. And she's like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be squatting anyways. What's the point of putting a bar on your back and squatting?" And I straight up like looked at her, just like my head could not go more sideways. I was just like,
it's such bullshit.
Honey, like, you always have a bar on your back. It's called gravity. And you squat I assume, because maybe I shouldn't assume your gender, but you're a female. I assume you have to sit down to go to the bathroom. Congratulations, sis. You just squatted.
Yeah.
Are you going to say that you can't squat anymore? Just because it's not in the gym doesn't mean it's not a squat. It's a pattern of movement. And if I got hurt for a reason. Squat didn't hurt me. I hurt me.
Right.
There is a reason why I got hurt. And if I run away from squat, you're going to never really address that issue. And it's important for the personal trainer or, whatever, whoever's listening is, it's not necessarily the exercise itself. It's the loading of the exercise and the execution of that exercise. So you hurt yourself deadlifting. Okay. Maybe don't max out on deadlifts, but go back to the dowel, go back to the hinge pattern, go back to and just making sure your glutes are firing off, your core is braced. Your upper back is stable. Like
all 3 points are aligned. Your head, your back, and your hips.
Your hips and your shoulders move at the same time, same rate of speed. You're not letting yourself drift forward onto your toes. Like, really hammering in these basics. And, it might seem weird or awkward or whatever, but that's because you were weird or awkward up until that point. Like, you're just now realizing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll come back just as strong, if not stronger, sooner than you think.
Yeah. I think it sucks because physical therapists are kind of like that too. I mean, there's some. So there's this guy, shout out to Dr. DMAC. He did a few seminars, kind of like you did at 24, but he did it with, what's that high-end gym? I keep forgetting. Huntington Beach, Irvine.
Equinox?
Yeah, so he did a few in Equinox, and then he went to one of the facilities that I worked at called No Limit Personal Training. Yeah. So he went there, shout out to No Limit. So he went there and he would tell us, here's what other physical therapists are doing. I don't believe in that because he's a sports physical therapist. Mm-hmm. So he believes in movement. He believes in breathing patterns. Great. He believes in important. He'll do a 90-minute assessment. He's like, yeah, I can crack your back or like a sports chiropractor, but he's like, what's the point? I want to get to the root of the problem and help you fix it. Mm-hmm. Like, how's your breathing pattern? When you squat, how are you squatting? When you're hinging, how are you hinging? When you're pushing, how are you pushing? Pulling, how's your overhead reach? Are your lats tight? Do you have tight hamstrings? Like, is one hamstring, can you go up in a supine position? Can one leg go up higher than the other? He'll go in depth with those little things and he'll help out the person. Whereas just you go to a chiropractor, physical therapist, they'll tell you bullshit like that. I think there should be one of my old clients, Christine Donovan. Shout out to Christine. We're doing a lot of shout outs.
Yeah, right.
We were having a conversation and kind of the same thing. She got hurt and her doctor told her not to do that. And I'm like, kind of depends. I think because the doctors go through like the healthcare systems, obviously through insurance, right? So I think they should fix that. Like, you have a doctor that talks to a physical therapist, that talks to a personal trainer coach that has some sort of knowledge. I mean, it can't be like some Joe Schmo who recently got certified and has been in the industry 1 year. There has to be some credentials behind it or some experience behind it, right? But I think it should be kind of rewritten in a way. Like, you have all three of them in tuned with each other, talking about, hey, what happened with Kenny? Oh, he tore his left knee. Okay, well, the doctor's going to do this. The physical therapist is going to do this. And then you're going to go to a personal trainer, or if that's your decision, to get stronger. Like, I think that trifecta, that tripod of people, if they talk to each other, everybody would get more of an understanding of how each other's fields work, because everybody's different. And it sucks because we're all divided. You have each category. And it's like, well, I'm staying here, I'm staying here, and I'm staying here. There's no reach around of like, hey, how are you doing this? Maybe I should do this differently. Like, maybe we should get in tuned. Like, I don't know what your take on that, but I think the healthcare industry, as far as that shift, should be rewritten as far as that.
Yeah. I definitely agree with the sentiment of getting. It's like with an athlete, like a professional athlete, and there are different doctors and coaches.
Everybody's talking to each other.
You have, let's say, you have Mike Trout, right? He has his hitting coach, he has his trainer, he has his base running coach. He has his strength coach, his sport med doctor, massage therapist. Like, he's got a team, and I guarantee they're talking to each other and making sure that they're all on the same page because of the care of their patient, their athlete. So why should people,
I think if we implemented that with people, a lot of the problems that are happening now in general population would go away, especially with injuries and everything else like that.
Yeah. And even like before you think about taking a step like that, like, there'd be a lot of problems that can be fixed just by education alone. If like in PE, when you're going through grade school, like, not just going through the motions of PE class, but like actually getting kids to love moving, because kids naturally love moving. Like, they're just like little animals running around. At least when I was a kid. I don't know how it is now, but
hasn't changed.
Okay, good. So when just harboring that positive, fun, enjoyable nature of movement and not making movement like punishment.
Having fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. Just being a kid, like just being a natural inhabitant of this world. Like the sedentary lifestyle has been proven over and over and over again to be the worst thing for humans, psychologically, physiologically, spiritually, mentally, just everything. So just getting people to not only love moving, but love moving well also is another key that's missing, is the quality of said movement. I think you can solve a lot of problems just with that alone. And then when problems do come up, like you mentioned, having a team of healthcare professionals that are on the same page and want to work with each other, instead of saying, well, your doctor doesn't know what he's talking about, or your trainer doesn't know what they're talking about, or whatever it might be. Having a more of a collaborative effort than a opposing one.
Right. A more narrow-minded standpoint of each individual in their own little box.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sucks. So I train these kids. Yeah, like it hasn't changed. So I train these kids, Evelyn and Matthew, and I make it fun for them. Like kids need to move. It sucks because now when you go back to that book, kids are sitting down because of COVID. So kids are in their house and they're not getting PE. They're not getting any sunlight. They're in front of their computer screens on Zoom. They're like little adults and they're on Zoom for 6-7 hours a day.
It's bad.
And so the mother, Elizabeth, came in and she's like, hey, like my kids need to move. It's like, sure. So I make it fun. Like, of course, squat, hinge, push, pull, use some anti-rotational stuff, anti-rotations hold. I make it fun for them, but I also make them learn and like how to do it. They're like, oh, this feels good. This is cool. This is awesome. Mm-hmm. By the time their session's done, they're like, wow, I'm actually really tired. And then we'll go back to it, be like, hey, okay, let's learn from last week. What did you guys learn from last week? And just implement that fun back into it too. Because when I was a kid in PE, all my coach would say or the guy, my PE instructor, he'd be like, okay, go run a lap. We got basketball. We got football. Like, I mean, that's fun, but you really didn't learn much about moving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's kind of sad with, again, bringing COVID up, even kids are losing and people don't realize it. Your kids are sitting down for 6 to 8 hours a day on a Zoom call. And then on top of that, they got homework. So they're turning into little adults. Like what you're doing, what makes you feel bad and achy at the end of the day, they are starting that cycle as we speak, as little people. Like, and we can't have that. It's sad.
It's disgusting. I've always kind of been a weary person of that desk-bound office lifestyle. Like just naturally, I could not ever see myself doing that. Like personal training, being out in the field, doing stuff.
Right.
That's what I have to do. Like
I've done it.
I go fucking nuts.
I've done it. I went fucking nuts. It shit sucks. I lasted maybe 9 months at 3 different places and I hated it. And I went back, to training because I loved it.
Yeah, but it's just so sad to see. And in that desk-bound book I mentioned earlier, in the introduction, one of the like kicks to the gut that really hurt me personally, just because I've seen this, I've noticed this in kids, especially now, but when I was a kid too, even myself when I was a kid,
right?
But they show like a little silhouette picture of a child, in their desk, like sitting down reading a book at the desk, and it's like, this is where it starts. He had in the intro, he had an observation that was kind of mind blowing. He was kind of getting some research done for a book he was writing at the time, and he was observing his kids and their kindergarten class and just kind of how they run and move and do all their things. And then as he was kind of wrapping up the book, the kids were in like the midway point of their first grade, and he started noticing something different. Half the class, their running form changed somehow. And he was racking his brain like, what happened? What was different? And he noticed that in kindergarten, they were always like either like sitting on the ground or, running and jumping and doing this or getting in line doing that. Yeah. And he's like, they weren't really still for very long.
Yeah.
First grade is like really when they're told to sit down in a chair, shut up, listen for 8 hours. And he's like, I wonder if that's where some of these things start, because kids are like really plastic, they're adaptable and, whatever. But, when you sit down for long periods of time, your body starts to adapt to that position. And so, when you're a toddler, you're a beautiful mover. Like, you ever see like a 2-year-old squat to pick something up and stand back up?
Oh, dude, their form
it's
is
amazing.
Is like perfect.
It's beautiful biomechanics. You can see that all throughout like their childhood up until around that age where they start like, getting involved with technology and, being sedentary and, having homework all of a sudden and having to sit down in school and pay attention and all these things, that their bodies start like adapting and warping and shifting into like this more or less like, I'm exaggerating, but kind of like this creature, this inhuman goblin creature, and
Smeagol.
And unfortunately you look at older adults like the geriatric population, and you just have to like ask, like, I wonder if their posture throughout their entire life led them to have their hunchback. And it wasn't just because you're quote unquote getting old, which is a doctor's favorite line. Oh, it's just age, you're getting old. I get parroted that line so many times from people. Oh, I'm just getting older. It's like, no, well, yes, you are getting older, but that's an excuse. Like, how about this older person who has zero of the issues that you're describing, or that older person or that older person? No, it's you that's getting older, that's doing something that's pissing your body off. Your body is desperately trying to tell you to do something different. But yeah, it's just like that sedentary lifestyle when you're a kid, and especially like right now, it's just so sad. And it's actually kind of not like triggering, but it's just like, it's upsetting. It's frustrating, very frustrating. Cause I see
kind of like you're disappointed.
I see the future of it. I'm just like, no, like, don't do this.
Yeah. Not only that, it's like, so companies, I don't know if you've heard, but companies like Blizzard, like the big corporation companies, they've implemented a thing to where I think all of their employees, they're on treadmills and they're working, because that gets the mind going. When you move, when you exercise, your brain moves at a faster rate than when you're sitting down, because you're kind of slow. You know what I'm saying? Like it just moves better. You think a lot quicker.
You get the juices going.
Exactly. Endorphins are going. Your brain is, if you're sitting down, like it's at a 4-cylinder speed, and then you're moving after that, well, you're a V8 right now. Like that's how your brain is, So companies like that are implementing more ways to be creative, which is good. It just sucks that you go to a public school or a private school, because they all do them, and you see kids hunch shoulders, and then now they're having back problems or whatever the case may be, or they're not exercising enough, or some kids even ditch PE because they don't want to run. Like, that process starts then, and it's really sad to see, and that comes into adulthood, and before they know it, they have so many problems that they don't know where to start. Yeah. And that's the shitty part of seeing that, what you said about seeing those first graders, seeing the transition from kindergarten to first graders. Because kindergarten, we would always sit Indian style, and we would always like grab our toes and reach forward. Like, I was doing butterfly stretches in kindergarten before I even knew what butterfly stretches were, So it's like that sort of thing it was really cool. I was, like, you're a lot more flexible. You're a lot more mobile, getting up and getting down into positions. And yeah, just like you said, going into first grade, now you're sitting. Now you're listening to a teacher explain for 8 hours.
Yeah. And I think I should like take some of the heat off of schools too, because it's not their fault. Like, they have other problems they have to deal with. And, it's always going to go back to the parents. Like, the parents have to be there and have to make sure that they're not abdicating some of their responsibility to other areas that are already overloaded and overworked, and frankly, just not suited to take over that responsibility. Like, you shouldn't have your public school or your private school like teach your kids' posture. Like, that's your job, parent. Come on.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a daycare. It's a school, and you're still a parent. You still have to do your job, So, and the reason why I say that is everyone who's a parent who has their kid who's like noticing these things is like, you have control over that. Like, it's not like yes, it's kind of like a knock, but it's like, hey, slap, wake up. Like, you can fix this. You can stop this for your kid. And if every parent thinks that way and says, oh, I can stop this for my kid, guess what? You stop that for a generation. Now you're getting somewhere. Now that next generation, the next generation, the next generation, they keep passing down that knowledge instead of just like no, can someone else help my kid with that? I don't want to do it, or whatever the case might be.
And like, I'm not sure. Have you ever had clients like that are kids?
Yes.
Oh yeah. So it's like it's when you hit that generation.
It's not so cool.
Yeah, it's cool because it's different when I coach like adults, right? Like they kind of understand. With kids, they have no idea. So it's our job to make that younger generation understand and implement that information in their head and to be like, oh, I get it. I get what Coach Alex or Coach Kenny is trying to do, and make it fun for them because you're setting them up for success in the future. And let's say they're 18 or 19 and they get into weightlifting, they already know the steps and what to do because us as coaches set them up for success from when they were 12 years old.
Right.
Now they're going into the weight room and they're squatting all the way down, all the way up. And their coaches, whoever their coaches is, if they join a sport or whatever the case may be, is impressed. They're like, wow, where'd you learn that? And everything kind of flows together. You're teaching that younger generation to be successful in the future, to move and know how to move and do everything else like that. And it sets them up because their friends are like, whoa, I want to move like Jimmy, or, like it just sets everything up.
Yeah. And just the quality of life is just so much better. Like you feel better, you look better, you are better. Like you aren't being held down by, it's like, if you have crappy posture, I mean, that's sapping you of your energy all day, every day. Because if you're like crimped over and hunched over or whatever, gravity is constantly pulling you in that direction. So your muscles are working that much harder, not even to like pull you back to where you were, just to keep you from going further and further into that position. So you're just wasting energy all day, every day. You fix your posture, all of a sudden you have all this energy. It's like, wow, I'm not tired in the middle of the day anymore. I'm not like waking up sore every morning. Like, what's going on? This feels so much better. And when I like when you brought up the kids, because it's so cool when you reach that generation and like you kind of see like the look in their eyes and just like the joy and just like something that, at least when I first started working with younger kids, I always kind of imagined myself at that age and like this guy's gonna tell me what to do and blah blah blah. Like whatever, dad. Like I'm not gonna listen to you. But a lot of it, to my surprise, my pleasant surprise, a lot of them are like stoked on it. Like they love it. And I've just from like training someone's kid, like my client base has grown because I train the kid, then I'll train the brother, then I'll train the mother,
or
then
dad.
I'll train the dad, and then I'll end up training their entire family. And it's like this went from like one kid, twice a week to now I'm training their entire family. That's like 10 extra sessions a week. And not only that, but then you get to bond with that family and whatever. And it's just so cool. But back to like the main point, when you like reach the kids, like it's especially rewarding. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it is. And learning's a key factor with them as well. That's the main thing. If they keep learning, they keep growing as individuals, like as little humans, and even the parents see that as well. And they're like, oh, wow, like he's moving a lot better too. With posture is a huge thing, and it's not an epidemic. It's more because especially at home now, there's a lot more issues that come into play, right? So everybody's on the computer, same as a kid. So the next few years, if this COVID things keeps going on, we're gonna have a lot more problems with postural issues as
and mental health.
Yeah, and mental health. So it's like you gotta like fix that. Plus, you gotta go see a therapist. Plus, you gotta do other things, And like when everything's shut down, so gyms are supposed to be shut down. But when I had a guy, Josiah, and I talked to him and talked about this too, like 3 episodes ago. And he told me, he's like, dude, I don't get what everybody's doing. I can't stay home. Mentally, it's not safe for me. Yeah, you can work out at home. You can do push-ups, pull-ups, squats. If you got a home gym, that's fine. But you're locked up.
Yeah.
You're locked up and you can't go anywhere. How is that healthy for people? Like, if anything, stress causes more wear and tear on your body.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, exercise would help, but that mental aspect is literally the engine that keeps the body going. Like, it sends those signals down.
Yeah.
Like, you have to see your friends. The reason why you go to a facility is to see your friends and lift weights with them. And then guess what? You got new PRs when you're lifting with your friends. Whereas if you're lifting with yourself, you have motivation, but it's not really there.
The energy isn't quite there. Yeah.
No, so totally. It sucks, dude. Like,
It's a vicious, and this is like the really sad part is it's a vicious cycle because, it starts off like with the COVID thing and you have people kind of cooped up in their house and they are now used to not having to have the responsibility of getting up, getting ready, going to work, doing your job, and then coming back home, having that thing. Now you're just at home all the time. Now you start getting a little lazier. And then now that you're getting a little lazier, your work ethic starts dropping down. Now you stop working out as much and you start getting distracted with other things. And now you start kind of feeling depressed and helpless. And then you start gaining weight or getting, physiological things going on like heart condition or breathing problems or anxiety or, whatever the case might be. And then that even more, you feel more helpless. And, so especially like when it comes to what I was talking about with like taking ownership as like a parent and teaching your kids, like, and having like, that is like something you can definitely control, like fitness, exercise, and your own like mental, physical health is like something you can control. So even though like you can't control, the events outside with COVID and lockdown and all that, right, you can control how you handle and respond to it. That's one of the really cool things about fitness and health is, and if you can fix one side, that one side oftentimes will help fix the other side as well. The physical will help fix the mental will help fix the physical. You get both working together. Now you're holistic. Like that's a really important point.
They both go together, and they both,
are. The Greeks had it right. Like they were all about that holistic mindset where like, yeah, you can have like all the philosophy and knowledge in the world, but
if you don't apply it,
if you don't have the body to apply it, you don't actually like use the the machine, the vehicle that you're driving in. What good is all that thought? Like you have nothing to put it towards action. And meanwhile, if you're all action and no thought, it's the same thing, just opposite. It's just as bad. You need both together in order to have that homogeny. So
yeah, and the thing I'm thinking about too is the production. So not only the mental health and the physical health of the individual, but that company, how like because you're going through that where you're going through that depression. So and then your body's kind of getting worn out and being deteriorating. How is that producing for the company? Like how like. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, how the fuck is that helping the company produce as a whole? If you're feeling good as a person mentally and physically, guess what? Everything's going to be on point when you go to work. You're going to produce a lot higher, especially within whatever company you're in. And that company will see that. If everybody's on the same page, you'll produce a lot higher in numbers. So it's like, is production down in companies now because of COVID? Like, because production cannot be higher than like what they're used to last year. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I thought about. It's like, okay, lock everybody up in their house, but for everybody and for productions, even corporation companies, how are they doing? How are they producing? It's like, you got to think about that aspect as well, which
aren't doing very well.
Yeah. It's like, if you feel like shit, like you have 2,000 people that are usually producing really well and now they're at home and now they're feeling like shit. Oh, your numbers went down. What happened?
Yeah. Well, not only that. So that's a good point. But then also on the other end too, when it comes to claims and insurance, like if you take care of your body and you're doing all that, your overall healthcare costs goes down.
Yep.
And that's what companies, at least recently, have been starting to notice is if I take care of my employees and they are motivated to exercise and take control over their health, they cost less money. They produce more and they cost less. So now instead of just doubling my the company's profits because of their production, I'm quadrupling it because now they're also costing me less. Through mental health claims or physical health insurance claims, because they're just healthier people
individually.
Yeah, individually they're healthier people. So, one thing I would hope that some major companies are doing is just stressing the importance of health and fitness and working with their employees to keep that not only for their physical but also their mental health and just making sure that they're taking care of themselves because, like I said earlier, like an empty cup can't fill another. If the employee is empty, the employer is going to be empty as well.
I completely agree. Well, I used to work for a It was a marketing firm out in Irvine. And so what they did is they gave you a free 24 pass. That's the 24 I went to on Valley View, which was cool, but it's kind of like, here you go, do your own thing. I think because I was talking with Christine Donovan, the same one who was telling me like, hey, how would personal training implement into the healthcare business, right? So it's like, if they would maybe show a little bit more appreciation, like, yeah, a 24 pass is cool, but it's like $40, like how to have costs go down, have them sign up for a yoga class or a class pass where they're with a trainer once a week. They do maybe like jujitsu or yoga another day or
whatever,
like a stretching class, you know, like implement it a little bit more and you'll see costs go down. You'll see productivity go up. I think it starts with the healthcare industry as well. I don't know what your points of view on it.
Yeah, I think so. It's just looking at it from the company side too. That's a decently big upfront cost, even if it's, let's say, $40 a person for a membership, and you extrapolate that to 2,000 people. That's $80,000 right there, or whatever, however the math works out. But that's a relatively big upfront cost for something you're not even sure is going to pan out well. So I can see that. And then like advancing it as it goes along, as it starts proving its worth, you start, okay, I'll invest a little bit more.
Yeah, it's the ROI. It's a return on investment. It's like, what are you getting back from that?
Yeah, but I think some companies either just want to cut the cost or just are taking it too slow, like out of caution. But hopefully this is good news. The shit works. Like, it sticks to the wall, and the more you invest in your employees and the more you show your care for them, not only are they going to end up being better mentally and physically and all that, but some, maybe not all, but some are going to see that and be like, wow, my company is taking care of me. Like, I thought I was just some nameless face in the organization just a number, and I'm just producing like a slave, but they actually like want the best for me. Wow, I'm going to produce and stick with this company because now I have that bond with them. They care. And in a lot of regards, that's how I felt about 24 is they really, like, their employees, they take care of. And the members, like a lot of the stuff we talk about is about the member centered focus and making sure we're doing well to everyone. But 24 is also really big on taking care of their employees. And as one of the things I really appreciate about 24 is they made sure, like, the management was always making sure, like, hey, how are you doing?
Really?
Just making sure, hey, Kenny, you have like 120 hours of vacation time in your Nexus, your clock in and out system. You gonna use any of that anytime soon, or like you're just gonna let
they take care of you?
Yeah, like they make sure like you're taking care of yourself and they help. So, and that was one of the things I appreciate. So I can guarantee that I'm not the only one who feels that way, and that can be applied across the board to different areas. Yeah,
and it makes you stick too with whatever company you're with. So it's like the more they take care of you, it's like, oh wow, like you said, I'm gonna stay here longer. This is a career for me now. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. Where else am I gonna get this? You know. LA Fitness wasn't like that. I wish LA Fitness, I don't know how 24 was run because I had never worked there. But LA Fitness was more of like a numbers game. It's kind of like, how many sessions can you fill your schedule up with? Okay, you lost somebody, they're not going to renew. That means you need to do 2 more people. I don't care who it is. And that kind of sucked because they didn't care for the individual that was training. They only cared about how much are you producing? How much money are you bringing into the company?
And also like puts the client in the, like, you're just a number as well. It's like, do you care about the client or you just want me to get as many as I can? And that's all you care about.
Yeah. And that's what sucked. Like, that's what I hated about LA Fitness. I mean, I loved my coworkers. I mean, that's where I met Roscoe. But just the aspect of the numbers over the individual kind of sucked. I was like, no, like, these people pay for this place to function. You're supposed to take care of them. Like, as every individual, like don't you get that? Like that's 101. Like, I'm not a business major, an account major, or anything, but that's literally, I know that.
Yeah.
And that's what some people overlap in a way. And it's kind of sad, man.
Yeah. No, it's and sometimes it's just, you lose sight of it. Like, when you have a company that's like LA Fitness, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but it's understandable when you have a company that gets as big as LA Fitness is, and you just, maybe have shareholders who you have to think about as well, and you got to maximize profits and all these things. Like, sure, but you can't forget about the people who got you to that place in the first place.
Yeah, you can't.
Like the members who have been there since the beginning.
Yeah, you can't forget that either. Like, even with coaches that become really big in the fitness industry, like on Instagram or something like that. I talked about this too. Some get lost and they forget about the people who were there for them day one as a coach. Those people set you your base. You have to make sure they are taken care of individually because they have been with you since day one. And that's the number one thing about personal training or coaching or whatever industry you're in. Personal care, you're providing them a service. So do the best service possible.
Yeah.
That's the number one rule, and that's what people forget about as a coach. Like, I see so many coaches on their phones not giving a shit or just...
Yeah, I don't get that.
All right, do deadlifts, and they're like swiping through Instagram. What? Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, give them your 100% full attention.
Yeah,
that's what
how
you're there
disrespectful that pot, like... That's so bad.
And it sucks because the client notices it, but they don't want to say anything because
it's their money. They're like, they should have the authority to be like, hey man, I'm paying you right now. Like,
get off
wait
your phone.
20 minutes for a session to end and then you can dick around your phone?
Yeah.
If not, then we can just end it here. I'll get my money back and I'll find someone who cares. Like, it's simple.
Yeah.
It's sad. Yeah. F that.
Yeah, like LA Fitness, there was a lot of that. Some of the coaches, not all of them, most of them were pretty cool, but I ran into that. But it's just like as a coach, you have to give them that personal attention, that one-on-one interpersonal connection too as well. Because that's, dude, it's personal training. You have to give them that personal aspect of it.
Yeah, and another kind of sideways on that is... when it comes to actually like training your client, it's personal training. Like, it's not personal workout buddy. Like, you're not just like taking them through a workout and, you're just there to accompany them and make it entertaining. Like, you are training that individual. You're fixing their movement patterns. You're resetting their behavior, their mindset when it comes to working out. You're helping them change aspects of their everyday life that they're trusting you to help them with. Like, you have to go in there with the mindset of 100% dedication to this person. Like, people will, like, when I'm at work at 24, I guess I have like this intimidating appearance or front just because I'm so like laser focused on
That's
my
how
client.
I am.
Like, we're in a bubble. Like, there's no one else in the gym.
No one else matters.
The only time I'm like looking around is like, okay, is the next piece of equipment I'm going to go to, is that open? Like, that's about it. Otherwise it's like people say hi, like I'll say hi back like real quick, and it kind of seems like standoffish and whatever. It's like, no, someone's paying me right now. I can't afford to pay attention to you. Like, I'll see you around, like I see you, I acknowledge you, like you're my buddy, like what's up? But I have work to do, like some serious work.
You're 100% because I'm the same way. I'm so laser focused in my client and what they're doing. So, nothing else matters. The only thing that matters is a person paying me. That's it. Someone says hi to me, I'm the same way. I'm like, hey, what's up? And they're like, you're kind of rude. I was like, no, like you gotta.
I'm at work.
Yeah, I'm at work. Like, I can't dick around with you and say hi. Like, I'll like small chit chat if my client uses a restroom or goes to get a drink of water, comes back. Yeah, but when they come back, that's it. Like, snap out of it, get focused again.
Totally.
And coaches need to have that individualization too with their clients. For me, I have, so I don't use an app. A lot of coaches use an app. I use a clipboard. I go old school. I use a clipboard and a pen, and I have everybody's dynamic warm up, what you're supposed to do. Everybody's completely different. And I'm like, okay, Dana, what do we have today? Okay, your warm ups, this, and this. We have this today. We're going to do this many sets. I mean, if a piece of equipment's not open, I'll find something else to do, but like, I have that. I have my clipboard. I have their exercises, and I'm ready to go. It's all them. It's like for 1 hour, 60 minutes. Honestly, I don't even think that's a lot of time because
it really isn't.
Like, I think about it. I'm like, how do I cram all of this shit in 1 hour?
Supersets. Supersets all day.
Yeah, like you have to put movement patterns together. Like I'll put like a hinge with an overhead push, or I'll put like a pull with a vertical push, like something like that. It's like you have to kind of figure out a way to fit that all in. And hopefully the client will come in even 15 minutes early or 10 minutes early to get their warm-ups in, and they'll stay after to get their cool down in as well. You know, like me, if I had my preference, I think training should be like 90 minutes. You know, like come in, you do their warm-ups with them. You do the soft tissue work and myofascial release with them. You go into activation. You go into what they need based on the individual. Then you go into the peanut butter and jelly of the workout, which is their main lifts, right? And then you are with them with their cool down after, like 15 minutes, and then you got an hour, and then you got 15 minutes later.
Yeah, you know? No, it's a funny thing that whenever I take someone through like a dynamic warm up or foam rolling before the workout, like actually getting them warmed up, activation and all that, they're like, man, that's a good workout. I'm like, dude, we
haven't even started.
We just started like the warm up.
Their central nervous system is already.
Like, they're just like so blown away, but like this is a workout itself. I'm like, yeah, welcome to fitness. Like this is. It's not just like you come to you show up to the gym, like you have a job to do.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're there to get better. And, it sucks that you hadn't been doing this before, but now you know, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to make you do this. Is what you're paying me to do for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Like even when I start on my working sets, on my squats, I am hot. I am sweating.
I am. Yeah. Like a
and that's how you should be.
Cow.
Like,
yeah,
dude, you look at basketball players, football players, wrestlers, Olympic athletes, by the time they're actually going, they're sweating already. They're not like, oh, I'm going to show up. I'm going to try to perform. Like, let's see what I can do. You know, like it's not like that. They go in there, they have their team, they get them warmed up. Boxers too, athletes, like they all have a warm up routine. And then when they go and perform, they're so loose. Everything moves one way and they move like butter.
They're not like trying to get going. They're keeping moving. Like it's inertia, it's overcoming your current state of motion. And it's easier to stay in motion if you're already in motion than it is if you're stopped trying to get in motion.
Yeah. And I've done that. So I used to wrestle. I wrestled for 6 years. And then I was an assistant coach at Olu. So
Olu, I went to Servite. No way.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So my coach, and I didn't think of it in like high school, my coach is like, by the time you step on the mat, you should be drenched sweating. And I'm like, what? So I did this myself when I was in high school. And I implemented this to the Olu kids too. But I was like, okay, I went into a tournament warm, sweating already, had my sweatshirt on, my pants on, did some drilling, moved around a lot, did some dynamic warm-ups that my coach prescribed me. Went into the tournament, did great.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did another one, cold. I did shitty. I was so I was like, what the fuck? And my coach is like, see, I told you. So it's like general population people need to get the grasp of that and see how important it is to be warm and sweaty before you actually perform the bread and butter of your exercise.
Yeah, this is something I was really hoping we get into as well. And I'm just going to segue into it. Just
Go ahead.
It's really important. But one of the big epiphanies that I had was when I first started getting interested in helping people and going to like physical therapy, I wanted to work with athletes. Like, I'm an athlete. I want to work with athletes. I want to get them bigger, faster, stronger, and feeling better. But when I went to my Kines 101 class and they're kind of going over like the different areas of Kines and what to expect, physical therapy, when they got to the topic of physical therapy, a professor was like, how many of you think you can be working with a lot of athletes? Well, I'll raise your hands. Like, probably not the case. You can be able to work with a lot of older people. And sometimes people who are older, set in their ways, and don't want to get better. And you have to learn how to navigate around that. And I was like, screw that. Like, I'm not going to deal with that. So after I graduated, I started interning for this performance facility called STARS. And it was sports training and rehab services.
Is it that in Anaheim?
Yeah, it's right next to Alpha 5.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And that was like, it was like a perfect opportunity, like internship, because that idea was something I already wanted to have. Like, I wanted to have my sport performance and like rehab together, because I always thought like that's a holistic athlete. That's going to be a better performing athlete. They feel better. They're going to perform better. So it was kind of cool like see that in play. I was like, oh, that's sick. Like someone else is doing this. This is their model. Like great learning experience. So then I start working at 24, and what do? I start working with, and at that STARS place, I'm working with professional football players,
high level athletes,
like getting ready for the combine, getting ready for the next season. Like
they don't mess around.
These are NFL, like they're not, some of them aren't as tall as you think they are on TV, but fuck, they are strong.
And they're wide.
They're strong wide. Ass dudes. Like even the small guys, you're just like, holy shit. Just like squatting 4 plates with chains for a rep. Just like, what? The range of motion probably isn't that great, but just like, you couldn't put like your average person, they get crushed. Like it's insane. But anyway, so I'm working with high level athletes and it's awesome. I love it. I started working at the Yorba Linda Superstore at 24 and I'm working with older people and great, good-hearted people and that part was good and wanted to learn. But I was just like, man, I'm working with old people. Like I wanted to work with athletes.
Yeah.
So as adapted to it and just thought, okay, what did I learn at Cal State Fullerton? And at Fullerton, they teach you a lot about just like concepts and what works for an athlete also works for your geriatric individual if regressed and progressed appropriately.
Properly,
like it's all concepts. So like what's going to be difficult for a professional athlete is going to be one thing, but what might be difficult for the geriatric person, let's say like a 500-pound squat for your elite athlete versus a body weight sitting down and standing back up for your geriatric. It's still a squatting pattern. It's still really difficult. It just looks different because of the relative ability. But so I started using some of the techniques I learned at Fullerton and started noticing that these older people, they're older, but they're athletes in their own regard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started thinking, well, that must mean like everyone's an athlete in the sport of life because sport requires a certain level of performance or else you get hurt or you die.
Right.
And you need to be prepared every day for the rest of your life to perform for that sport. And it's like you mentioned, warming up. If there's general population of people who aren't too crazy into fitness who are listening to this right now, even just starting off your day, warming up, stretching, and then going and tackling your day. Just try it one time. Just do one. Just stretch your hamstrings. Just stretch your damn hamstrings for like
world's greatest stretch.
Just for 2 minutes.
That's all you got to do.
Each leg, and then start your day. And just measure how much better you feel and how much more awake and alive you feel then compared to your every other time where you don't do that and you feel like ass. Like, and just like a couple stretches here and there. Now just imagine doing that like in a more like dynamic sense. And you start like moving around, stretching, feeling good, getting more dynamic ranges of motion. And then doing that before you work out and then having that workout amplify your everyday life and having every day be just like that and feeling incredible and good and being strong and healthy every day. Instead of just like wishing you could be like that because, it looks appealing. Like,
well, anyway, they can be like that. It's
exactly.
Just everybody can be an athlete no matter how old you are. Like I've seen 80-year-old people get under a barbell and squat for reps. Granted, they're not squatting 300-400 pounds, but their movement pattern is really good. They're going all the way down. They're going all the way up. Hips are intact. Knees are intact.
Yeah.
Their ankle mobility and flexibility is fine. Like everything is just perfect. Granted, yes, they don't have the weight. That's fine. But they're
relative.
Moving.
Yeah. And that's and it's really cool because, I have like some of my older clients doing, like I generally don't have all of my clients doing back squat because some of them just don't possess the mobility for it.
Especially for your shoulders.
Yeah, the chest is really tight. But even just doing like goblet squats or like weighted medicine ball squats, like on the boxes and standing back up. Some like other like older members of the gym would be like looking just like in amazement, just like this person's not too much younger or older than me, and they're able to do this. I didn't think I was able to do that.
Yeah,
like. My excuse was, I'm just getting older. Here's an older person than me doing this. It's like, you just ruined their excuse. It's just like, you could do that too. Like that could be you. Not necessarily like, doesn't have to be with me, but you could do that. Like that's something it was within the realm of possibility. You just have to make that decision and that change and, be willing to take that leap.
A lot of time too, it comes from inspiration. Other old people see other old people and they're like, wow, 50-pound goblet squat. My doctor told me I can't squat anymore. Well, let me try it. And then before you know it, 6 months down the line, they're squatting like, I feel amazing. It's like, told you.
Talking about inspiration, man, like in powerlifting, you have these, the master's classes where you guys who are like 50, 60, 70 years old getting under the bar and you're just like, damn, that's impressive. Like, and it's like a decent amount of weight. Like you're talking like a 70-year-old guy squatting 300 plus pounds, just like,
fuck.
What?
Damn, that's legit.
No, I remember when I was in school, there's a story of my professors, because I feel like they're just so far ahead of the curve over there. Like they're telling us, it's like a lot of stuff you're learning right now, just give it 2 years, you'll hear it in the mainstream because that's about how long it takes. But there's a story about this Nordic cross-country skier who was like 90 years old. And, you know, cross-country skiing is like one of the highly sought after people to research VO2 max stuff over because just the condition's insane. And he was in the lab with this guy was 90 years old. And some of the other people in the cohort were like 40, 50, like 30s, like younger guys. And these younger guys are just blown away at this 90-year-old who's just smoking them and just conditioning. And my professor's big takeaway in that story was it's about maintenance of that lifestyle and that movement. Like if you don't use it, you lose it. Yeah. And, you know, this 90-year-old guy, he had probably gotten started in his 20s or 30s and just kept going with it. And just think, like, not only physiologically, but mentally, how much stronger he got doing that. And that's like, so now, like, doing stuff that these 30-year-olds are struggling, it's like, that's his, like, when he wakes up in the morning, he's like, simple. Like, I can sleep and do that. Yeah. You know, it's just, he's kept up with it for that long. And these older people now, well, the problem is they retire and then they go completely sedentary. Yeah. And it's like that's where your problems start. It's not like you're getting older. You're just moving less and getting weaker at the same time. Like you have two things going for you. Yes, you're going to get older. You can't change that. But you can change the rate of decay. You know, you can really slow things down and in some cases up to a certain point, reverse it and really help yourself. And that's just like a big thing I want people to understand is like, you have so much more control over the outcome of your life and your reality than you even realize. You just have to like take ownership of it and actually like grow up and accept that you have the responsibility. And it's not someone else. Like the government can't do it for you. No one can make you do it. You have to choose to do it yourself. But it's possible. You just have to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Honestly, it starts with us, and it's not even motivation. It's you have to learn self-discipline,
self-motivation.
You know? Yeah. It's like you have to. It starts with the individual, and there's no excuse, you know. But hey, man, I appreciate you coming on.
We're done already,
dude. What is that? 90 minutes? Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, it went by fast.
I want to come back on, man. This is so much fun.
well, hey, in the future, we're gonna start doing visuals for YouTube, so everybody is gonna come back on for another round.
Oh hell yeah!
But dude, thank you so much for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I had a good time. Tell everybody how they can reach you on Instagram, if you have a YouTube, Facebook, all that jazz.
Yeah. So Instagram is just my first name _ last name Kenny_Callinan. I mean, it's not huge on like fitness stuff. It's just my life. Like
you're smart as fuck. Everybody should follow you.
Thanks, man.
And then everybody, of course, follow Trainer Talk Podcast. All right. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.